Hello and welcome to this Eyes of Harmony weekly podcast. On this podcast, we talk kind of everything Doctor Who, anything new Who, old Who.
Sometimes not even Doctor Who,
Not
as the
even-
case was last week.
I mean, sometimes the Marvel Cinematic Universe, sometimes films. You never know what you're going to get. It's a bit of a lucky dip.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a podcast. There we go. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
Cheers to that.
Yes.
I think probably the biggest note of this week was kind of the official end of the Sarah Jane adventures, I guess. I mean, it's pretty much canonical, I guess, at this point. You can't really dispute it
Yeah.
as what it is. So for those who maybe haven't seen it, though you most likely have, Russell T Davies wrote Farewell Sarah Jane, which was like another kind of short kind of story, voiced by the same guy who did like the Rose Epilogue.
But a lot of the actors from the series came back into it.
But also,
I think from outside the series as well. So.
Yeah, which was very cool. And yeah, I like that Sarah Jane and Ace showed up in it. I thought it was cool. Sophie Aldred. Like that was like an unseen story, or was that a book, or was that?
Yeah, well, that was a plan for the future of the series, like that they never got around to. Was that Sophie Aldred was meant to be in an episode, but of course that never came to be.
That would have been so awesome. I love Sophie Aldred, but I still think that Ace would do great in like a companion comeback episode. I don't get why they haven't done that. Like, why they don't do that more often, actually. Like, School Reunion is still one that sticks out in everyone's, like, head so much. Like, as a, and Joe Grant could show up. I mean, they did, at least the Doctor... At least they did that in the Sarah Jane Adventures. But it's like, there were more companions than just them. And, like... Ace was so well loved. I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't like Ace as a companion. She was... just amazing. Like, she's like the best thing, and like basically what Rose was kind of based on for the revival. Like it's been documented that Russell T was like, I liked what they did with Ace and where they kind of family and all that, and they were bringing into it. So like, I mean, Ace is pretty much like the carpet which was laid down. Like she kind of defined what New Who was going to be, and I always think it's a shame that Sophie Aldred never came back. But yeah, so it was a really nice short kind of... It was quite long, actually. Like,
for these things, it was the longest one that they've done.
Which was really nice, and I like that they kind of left it very open as to like how Sarah Jane passed away, or how it happened. And I like that there was a bit of time between the end of a series. Though they kind of left the Sky thing a bit... That was a bit confusing. I wasn't sure what really...
But I still never seen the final series. But...
Oh my god. Yeah. The Curse of Clyde Langer's a great story. Really good. That one's definitely worth a watch. But
I'll definitely watch it at some point.
It's a really sweet series. And it was... I was devastated when I found out. I remember I was like just watching like a news round or something on my laptop every evening. Me and my sister, this is how old, fucking hell. Like we had like 1 hour of internet on the computer a day in the evening. That was it. Like that was the time. Yeah. I remember I was just like, yes, it's my hour. Like log on to iPlayer and find out that one of my favourite actresses has died, which was a great way to kick off my 1 hour of... I was just in shock.
I remember exactly where I was. I was on holiday in Somerset at the time. We were just having like a nice... Like, I was sitting in my parents' in the living room, and we were just having a nice conversation. I must have just looked at my phone or something. I don't even think I had that good of a phone at the time, so I don't remember exactly. But like, I just looked at it, and it was just like, just in the middle of this conversation, and then just like the mood just, yeah.
It was a massive gut punch. Like
it was, yeah.
For a celebrity death, that is definitely the one that's hit me the hardest out of any.
Because it seemed so sudden.
It was so out of nowhere, wasn't it? And like we'd only kind of just had like series 4, series 5 was coming soon, and it was And it was such a shock. And I think that if the 50th anniversary she was still alive, I think she would have been in the 50th.
She would have, yeah.
I think there was a high chance. I think really that was the start of the end of the whole like Doctor Who cinematic universe. That was because then Torchwood pretty much after that just kind of died a death, and it was like Sarah Jane was like the really important kind of glue keeping it all together.
Yeah.
Like, because she wasn't just connecting like the kids series, she was also like that link to classic Who as well, which I think is so missing at the minute. Maybe in the new series, that kind of that link. Because for sure, Peter Capaldi would have met her, and she would have showed up with Jodie Whittaker at some point. Like, I could see it happening. Sarah Jane definitely Adventures would have ended by now. I mean, series 5 was 2011, and that was only half the series. Like, and I think she only wanted to do maybe a couple more series after that, so it would have been over by 2013. But I always think she would have popped up for the odd cameo.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely. Particularly if the series kept running. Though who knows how long the series would have kept running, right? if it hasn't gone down.
I mean, I know that it was planned that Clyde and Rani were going to leave. I think maybe at the end of series 5. Like, it was actually that series they were going to stop anyway. So it would have been a new cast and everything, new crew, if it had gone on. But I mean, I think she loved it, and I mean, she was a fantastic actress. Like the Prisoner of a Jadoon one, where she'd then play the alien villain. Like, you just bought it straight away. Like, this alien was inside her, and like, I go back and watch it. I'm like, damn, she's good. Like, she was so awesome as an actress. It's such a it's such a sad like loss of talent in the world, that Elizabeth Sladen passing. But I thought it was nice. I like that in the story, in this Farewell Sarah Jane thing, that the trickster showed up one last time. They all banded together to fight against him, because he was like her like Daleks kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the trickster's such a great villain. I'm confused at why they never brought him into the main series. I think like, wouldn't that like something like maybe like if you say in the last series you didn't want to do the lone Cyberman just yet, like having the trickster be there with like the Mary Shelley one, tricking the Doctor into having to save Percy Shelley for history, but then causing this complete other, like, it's such like a great concept. You make this choice and it changes everything. Like, and the trickster's established. It's not like a new villain you'd have to explain or anything,
No.
Like, he's freaky looking. Like, he always gave me the creeps. I remember that, like, the one where what happened to Sarah Jane, or whatever happened to Sarah Jane Smith. Fantastic piece of television. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's possibly my favourite of the whole series. It's one that always kind of sticks in my head.
Definitely, and it's, and her friend had to freaking die. Like, how horrible is that? Like, her friend basically had to be like, I can't just steal this person's life, and and it shows that Sarah Jane not being there, like, the whole of like England was destroyed. Fantastic television. And like, there's the bit where that Grask is chasing Maria through like the streets, and like he's like this little little tiny alien, and it's terrifying. You're like, like, kind of, it's like kind of scary about small kind of things chasing you. Like, I don't know, for me, like, I find that really kind of scary, like when it's like small little things that follow like the hero or main character. I remember that episode was like and that was like hard hitting for like kids TV. And then there was the one where she Lost in Time, I think it was called, or something, which is when she went back in time and met her parents, and they had to drive away and leave her, basically, even though they didn't want to, which was another fantastic story. I think Sarah Jane was a huge part of like my childhood, really. And I think it's nice that we finally got that closure. I think that I always wondered what happened to Sarah Jane, like in the Whoniverse. I'm always like, what did happen to Sarah Jane? Because a bit like the Brigadier, at least that had like closure.
It did.
And the Brigadier passing away was actually what convinced the Doctor like it was his time to face his death, and what he thought was face his death. I mean, he got around it using the what was it called? Not the Tesseract. That's Marvel. It was something like that. It was along that lines, though, wasn't it?
What, going to Translaw?
No. The robot he used. Remember, he was inside the robot. He was inside the.
Oh right, yeah.
It began with T. It was very near like Tesseract, wasn't it? Oh, that's gonna annoy me. But it was. I always wondered, like, they never really, I guess, mentioned it in the series, and I was always like, is she still in the universe? Is she,
Yeah, because the last episode was like, this goes on,
yeah, like, and the story continues. It was nice. It was lovely. It was a nice ending, zooming out of Earth and so on. There's got to be a point where you'd be like, I'm pretty sure Sarah Jane would show up for this, or the Doctor would, And it was just really well acted, and it was great to see all these, great actresses and actors come back. It was nice to see like Rani's mum, who was like, I didn't really understand what was going on, but and yeah, I always loved it was just a fantastic series.
One thing which I think somebody in one of the comments pointed out about the about it, which actually would be like really nice if of course not necessarily confirmed or anything, but like somebody brought up the idea of potentially the Doctor going back to the fourth incarnation as the creator was to go back and take Sarah Jane on the ride again in that incarnation.
That is nice. I will believe that happened. I think because it's open canon. I think that makes perfect sense. He went back to that form to give Sarah Jane one last trip in the TARDIS. Because I think the way they kind of wrote it was that she did pass away of what she passed away of in real life. I think it was kind of written as it was cancer. It wasn't against some alien or anything. It was she knew she was going, and that was it. God, it's such an emotional thing. Like, it's still like almost 10 years. I think it's been. I think it was 2011 she passed away. And yeah, I mean, like, that is a really lovely idea that the creator went at that point. And I mean, that actually, that was 2013, so it fits. Yeah. That kind of around the time where maybe she would have passed away in the Whoniverse. And yeah, it's it was good to see them again. I love those like actors, especially like Clyde. He was such a favorite. I love Clyde. Like, just that whole. I mean, he was there from pretty much the start, not the pilot episode, which was Invasion of Urbane, which was incredibly good. But then the series with the Slovene kind of being the main villains to start with, and then it was more the trickster who kind of became the best, like, he's definitely the more iconic. But I mean, there was other great aliens as well. I mean, there was the clown, which was fantastic.
It's always that
one always sticks out. There was the Sontaran story was very good, actually. Start of series 2. The Last Sontaran, I think it was called. Can't quite remember.
Yes, it was that, I think.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, the Mark of a Berserker was pretty good, actually. That was when Clyde's dad returned and had that pendant, which would make anybody do what he said, that was nice. It gave that bit, like, Clyde a bit more to him. The Curse of Clyde Langer is very good, but you haven't seen that one. That's he kind of, like, everything goes wrong, everyone starts to hate him or something, because he gets, like, a splinter from this, like, cursed tomb, like Indian kind of thing. I know. What else sticks out to you? Or those kind of obviously the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith was like that was like a national kind of episode to watch. And they were so bloody smart about it. They're like, David Tennant's gonna be in it. David Tennant's gonna be in it, and he only shows up at the end of part 1. I was like, so good. And I love when he came and he was like, stop this wedding now. And then it all starts to go wrong and crazy.
They gave Matt Smith more teen time than David in the series.
He still just showed up at the end of part 1. when Clyde was like, "That's not my hand." That's kind of how I wanted a regeneration to go. To be perfectly honest, like look at the hand and it's different.
Just act like, oops, now I'm in a new body. When did that happen?
Like, well, obviously he knows he's regenerating in the show, but like, I think it'd be cool if one time it was cool when he was like, "My hand's not white," and then just like Matt Smith's like. I mean, the Shansheaf were a great design. The vultures.
Yeah, they were.
I always think there's something about using animals and making them kind of aliens. Always is a really strong kind of concept. We had the cat nurses, we had the Jadoon, we had obviously the Shansheaf. Have there been any others? Alien
animals.
There's probably one out there which I've forgotten.
Well,
I mean, there's the werewolf, which is kind of a dog thing.
Sorry, yeah. But the cheetah people.
Oh yes, cheetah people. Yeah. I think there's always a strong concept with that. I mean, we've had spider people as well. The Arachnos, there we go. That was the one. I knew that was the one. Yeah. That was one in the New Who, which I'd kind of forgot. And we had Scorpion lady pretty recently, which I like that. There's always something just about the kind of anthropomorphic, is that the right word for it? I don't know. But, yes, there we go. That's always a strong concept. I'm trying to remember what the other stories were. In the early days. Oh, there was the Warriors of Kuglak in the Sarah Jane Adventures, where that was like when they went in the laser quest. He was like the bug guy. Do you remember?
Maybe.
He kind of wore like a red suit. He was like a cockroach man. It was like first series.
To see the design again. I probably remember if I saw it, but it's been a very long time. Like I haven't watched any of these episodes since their broadcast, so like I think bits of it are a little bit hazy.
I need to get that box set, to be honest. The series 1 to 5. I've got the pilot. I've got the pilot on DVD, but yeah.
No, I don't actually own any of them on DVD. Yeah. But I should do.
I like the theme actually, though I never got all the numbers and letters. She never did much coding. I always thought it was a bit Sherlocky actually, like her intro.
I guess it's just supposed to link to Mr. Smith, I suppose.
I guess so. Yes, that makes sense. That does make sense. Okay. I take back what I said. It makes perfect sense. I just was too dumb to realize what it was. But yeah. It was such a, and then when she showed up, in the, I always got like upset that in the Stolen Earth, Journey's End, that Clyde and Maria never got a little cameo in it. I was always like a bit gutted that they didn't get their little, but then they did get to meet the Doctor. To be fair, I always wanted to know what they did during that Dalek period. Actually, like what was Clyde doing? Like, because they, do you just stay at her? Like, I'm always interested in what happened actually for them during that time. Oh my god, Eye of a Gorgon. That was a fantastic one, written by Phil Ford. That was the one with the Medusa. Yeah, people.
That one, yeah.
That was always crazy. Evil nuns. Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember that one.
And it was fantastic.
Oh, man.
It was good. Like such Secrets of the Stars. That was enough. That was the other one. That was the weird the star guy, and he was like in the white suit, and he was using like people's star signs.
I do remember that too. Yeah. And yeah, throughout the series, like I was because like when I was younger, I was like really like I loved K9, and I was just like, can we see him more? Because he's just stuck in the cupboard.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
The first like chunk of the series, so it's just like.
Yeah.
Keep teasing me with this, and he appears for like 5 seconds every now and again.
It's because I think sometimes he was just a bit of a Deus Machina in like, some situations. He was too
too OP.
Yeah, basically too OP. Oh yes, there was the man woman in the attic. That was a very weird one. That was one where Rani chose something and then she chose the wrong decision. Oh, she wished like Sarah Jane to disappear and everyone to disappear, and the ship granted her wish. And then the ship's granddaughter or something came back years later and changed everything, changed the wish back. It was a very strange one, that one with Rani. The Mona Lisa's Revenge, when the Mona Lisa came to life. Do you remember that one? Uh,
Top of my head, but
yeah. Oh, the Nightmare Man. That was the guy who played Davros as well. God, there's so many of these I want to watch again.
yeah. No, I do need to go through the series again at some point or another.
Fantastic.
I really do, And finally, what's the final series at the end of it?
Yeah. Oh man, it was tough watching it. I think actually looking at his viewing figures, they were pretty low compared to the rest. And I think it's because people just couldn't bear to watch it.
Yeah.
Too sad. And it always, like, sadly, like the end episode just didn't really feel. Obviously, it wasn't like a series finale or anything, because they pretty much shot them in order actually of what they aired. So it's just enough for adventure, which maybe feels right. That then they're like, and the story continued.
But it just carries on. Yeah.
I'm really happy they've done this farewell thing, because I feel like I can now finally like close that book, that Sarah Jane.
Yeah, it's concluded. Yeah,
That's Sarah Jane. I think maybe one of my favorite moments of her acting is like when the Daleks are just saying exterminate over the call, and she just starts crying and hugging Luke. Like that, if like the Daleks were scary, like that sold it. That sells you completely what the Daleks are. More than like any dialogue about how many people they've killed or whatever. Like this companion who is so strong against all other aliens just starts to cry. Delicious. Tasty story writing right there. So good. Like that always hits me, that bit when like it's like the way that Jack reacts as well. Like that's what it needs to be. Like companions need to stop being so brave against the Daleks, if that makes sense. Like they need to like really like see these guys.
I mean, if they don't know them, it makes sense. But like, yeah, certainly a lot of the companions that have faced them before, it needs to be a bit of that scarring,
It's like like when Jackie was like, oh, Rose talked about the Daleks and she said she was terrified of them. This was in Doomsday or something. Like she talked about them and she was terrified, And it helps sell it when like you hear that the companions actually were like shitting themselves or like are terrified. Like that's when you add that level threat. These people who were usually brave, looking at bug-eyed monsters most weeks, but when they come up against these guys, they're terrified. And they cry and they're frightened. Like to shit, like, and especially the bit when she's in the car and she's like trying to say I'm sorry, like when she's about to get exterminated, just Sarah Jane, like you're like, oh crap, like she's stuck in a car. She freezes. This is the first time she's seen these creatures for who knows how many years, and she just freezes. Well, that's not really the Sarah Jane we know. Like she was almost dead in that moment, and that was
indeed. And that was satisfying thing about her in that story is the fact that she got to talk to Davros again. As well.
So great. And like he's like, I recognize that face. You're at the beginning of this all. The Scarrow. Yeah. Oh man. And that's what I mean. She was like this link. She was this really powerful, strong link between classic and new, which I just don't think can be replaced unless like. But the thing is she was from like a solid like midpoint. Unless you brought like Joe Grant back into it. Then
I think even then, like
Joe Grant just wasn't Sarah Jane.
Specifically for Sarah Jane was there from like what many consider like the peak, like the early Tom Baker era, when like most eyes were on it and into it, and like, and the fact that she does transition over multiple doctors. And then the fact she was also, in the Five Doctors as well as a big celebration. It's just like, they built. Really?
Yeah. I mean, she got K9 and Company, which was like, that was her first try at a spin-off. They knew that she was spin-off worthy.
Saw it.
They knew that she was spin-off worthy, though. Like, they knew that Elizabeth Sladen was like, she was fucking,
Well, I mean, that was just the transition from the fact that they wanted her back. Like,
yeah, they wanted her to come back for the Sixth Doctor as well, didn't they? At one point, they were considering it.
Well, no, it was. I think it was. I don't know about the Sixth Doctor one. I know, like the Fifth. I know. When John Nathan Turner took over, he asked her and he asked Louise Jameson whether or not they'd come back, but both of them. Jeez.
It would be interesting to have a companion return after so many years. You know,
Like
return for like a. I always think that would be an interesting concept. You know, like
I mean, they dabbled in it a little bit, like they had like companions from like a few series before, like they had Martha come back briefly
in
and
series
then
4, but it was never
yeah.
like a different Doctor for a whole
No.
series. You know, I'd always be interested. You know, if they. But the thing is they're pretty obsolete when like not obsolete, but like definitive when companions leave. They have left, like they can't come back. And that's the one thing I liked about Martha is she's still out there. I mean, she's got a son now with Mickey from Farewell Sarah Jane, which I mean makes sense. They were together at the end of time, which I always like that. I mean, they seem very suited.
Yeah.
You know,
And yeah, they do like expand on like what a lot of companions were doing in this thing, which you don't really get to see as much. Like, there's a lot of interesting point is that they made Nissa and Tegan a couple.
yeah, I was like,
It's like I'm not against it, but they left in very different places, didn't they?
yeah, I'm like, how did they get back? I mean, Nissa left. Nissa
maybe
leaves.
that'd be like a Big Finish story at some point, like just to explain the gap. But
yeah, because I mean, Nissa leaves like on a ship,
like a space station, isn't it, or something?
and Tegan's at an airport. So unless like at one point the Doctor's like, Nissa. So what? They were a couple. I
mean, that's
think
what they said. A nice couple from Australia, Nissa and Tegan.
Oh, fair enough. I missed that. I heard that they were there, but I missed the couple that is in a relationship. Or that's cool. Yeah, but how does she get there? That's my biggest question. That's my biggest question. What the hell?
I'd be interested to see like a Big Finish or something, like just explain that gap. If
I'm sure Big Finish will. It's
Yeah.
very it's cheap to make them. Audio booth, get your actors in, and a
I mean,
writer.
there's also recordings at the minute though.
Oh yes, of course at the minute, but like what I mean is it's a very cheap art form to make.
Yeah.
It's not super expensive because not having to book cameras and stuff. You got the audio, like because you just buy an audio, you just pay for an audio studio, Or I think they have their own. I don't know.
I think they have their own.
So like then you're only paying for writer and the actors and the time of the audio engineer mixing it all. And that's it. So it's and then like you sell it for box set, boom, like massive profit.
Yeah.
Easy mode. But I thought it was a very lovely, and I'm glad we had that kind of conclusion. But the creator thing I think is a lovely idea.
Yeah.
Like the Doctor specifically visited that face just for Sarah Jane, and then went to do the museum stuff. Was like, oh, this is probably time I find this painting and get it here. The Gallifrey Falls no more.
Oh,
fantastic. But yeah, I guess the other stuff to come out this week was the epilogue and prologue for Human Nature. So this week there was because obviously the whole lockdown thing. There's watch-alongs, and kind of this week it was Human Nature, and the Family of Blood, in the other order because that's the way it goes around. Family of Blood, Human Nature. There we go. Yeah, so. With Paul Cornell tweeting along, but he also wrote and got like the actors to show up and do some prologue and epilogues, which was very cool, but also interesting. One I was cool with, other I was a bit like but so we'll start with the prologue, which was Bree Summerfield. Which was cool. That was very cool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, she was in the original Human Nature, which is why it makes sense. The original novel. She was a companion then, which is why the link, makes sense.
That makes sense. Because I was interested, and he was like, "Oh, I was chased by someone with a balloon once, but not this child." So it's cool. So Human Nature happened twice. I guess
so.
In this chronology, which is cool. I mean, like, have you read the novel?
I didn't finish it. I read first. I read a bit into it. I don't think I ever I don't know how far I got actually. I'd need to look at it again, but I never finished reading it, unfortunately. But I did start to read it.
I'll be interested if it ended differently, and that's why it's like, oh, this isn't the girl. Like maybe they just died in that book.
I think yeah, there were differences to the ending, but I couldn't tell you exactly what.
But that's cool. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense then. And I liked it. You know, it was cool that she was talking to this mirror, and like that the daughter of mine refuses to ever apologize. And stubbornness, and they won't get out. What I found weird was it was like describing, I know, doctors from before it happened were coming to see her. Like that's what I was getting confused with or something. Or maybe I know that the grey-haired one, she was probably talking about Peter Capaldi, and then I guess the ginger one was just some future incarnation.
Future, yeah.
And obviously female ones, which was somewhat interesting. But then it was and it was just that was pretty much it. Bruce Summerfield was like, okay, put this mirror away, and then went back and the mirror was gone. Where'd it go? And then that connects into the epilogue, where the 13th Doctor decides to destroy time and let this character free. I'm pretty sure that would have some big ripples through time. I'm pretty sure it's a big boulder thrown in the lake. The larger the boulder, the bigger the ripples. And I'm pretty sure she made a tsunami with that one. Like, if all her future incarnations of a Doctor have gone to seeing this, daughter of mine.
Well, if it happened in...
Doctor Who needs to be a bit more definitive with its time. Is it doing endgame time, where it's, realistic that your past becomes your present, which becomes your... and then your future became your past. Is it like that where you don't have?
The Daughter of Mine's perspective, it makes kind of sense,
yes,
I guess. But like, if you look at it from the Doctor's perspective, if you smash the mirror and do the thing, and then you go back in the future to do the thing you're doing before you smashed the mirror, like, why? How did that? Yeah, it's a bit confusing.
But I'm also like, why did Daughter of Mine get all the sympathy? I mean, there's the guy still stuck there's a scarecrow somewhere, and the guy stuck in the mine. Like, I'm always why Daughter of Mine? Why is she the special one?
Because she's a youngish child. I don't know.
Yeah, but see, my thing is though, when they took the bodies of whoever it was, Daughter of Mine, she could have been bloody 52 and been a daughter, and her mum be 70 something. So it doesn't mean that she's a young girl just because she took on the form of a young girl.
So it's all about if Son of Mine had picked a younger body, then he might have been able to get out of it.
He should have, picked a prepubescent boy. God damn it,
Missed the trick there.
If you're pre-puberty, the Doctor will forgive you. No matter what you do, because you're a child, so
if you look like him.
Yes, yeah. Jesus, but I mean, it was nice. I loved Paul Cornell's writing. I wish he'd come back and write something again for the series. I mean, he wrote Father's Day, didn't he? Which is fantastic television. One which always sticks out.
There's so many good concepts which they've never revisited. Like, why haven't the Reapers ever appeared again?
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, there've been so many moments where they could have, because there have been other paradoxes and.
I think it's said in it that because the Time Lords were gone, that's why the Reapers appeared.
Yeah.
But then I guess when the Time Lords have come back.
Yeah, there was a long gap before they came back, and when they did come back, they weren't very powerful, and then they died again.
Yeah, man. By one master who managed to kill a whole race. Yeah. I want to just know how he did it. You can't just skim over that bit, but then go back and write the Doctor's whole, the origin which people don't mind not knowing about. Like, you want to know how this guy destroyed a whole planet and a whole civilization? Nah. You want to know about an origin? No, we don't. You're gonna get it. That's basically how it feels sometimes. I get kind of a bit annoyed at the way that they skim over the Master a lot of the time. Like, how does he survive?
That's always the difficulty with like. Yeah, that's always the thing about like direct attacks on Gallifrey. Like, if you're facing a foe like the Daleks, where they are also traveling in time and messing with time, like, of course, it's difficult to predict anything at any point. But like, when you're seeing the Master, surely as a Time Lord, you would have seen the whole thing coming, right?
Exactly. It's like the Master isn't like this great war machine. Like, how would he destroy Gallifrey? I know they were kind of a broken civilization, but there was still soldiers on Gallifrey. Like, we saw at the end of Hellbent, like they were rebuilding. Just, you know, I don't know. It's a pain in the butt.
I guess it could be argued, although of course they never expand this, but the fact that the Doctor kicked Rassilon off without a second thought and then ran off without like having strong leadership in place could have led the whole thing to go into unrest anyway.
I guess, but
because I always thought that like once the Doctor left Gallifrey in Hellbent, it's like, well, what's the connecting tissue here? What's keeping Gallifrey together? Right?
Yeah, I guess it could, but then that should have been touched on. That should have been said. That line should have been in there.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Rassilon is probably still alive.
Yeah, somewhere.
Hopefully, I kind of hope that they do go into that a bit.
Doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Maybe bring in that.
I mean, clearly Chibnall doesn't like the Time Lords, and that's why he killed them all again.
Yeah.
I can't believe like someone was like, yeah, sure, kill the Time Lords again. Like, no one was like, this is like, we literally just did this about, 15 years ago. That was, we done all this. We then saved Gallifrey. We just saved Gallifrey. So,
like, it didn't need to be like a prevalent force, right? It could have just been there in the background, like it had been.
It was broken. It was hidden away. They were in hiding. Like, that's all they needed to be. Just a hiding civilization just trying to survive. They got too big. They got too much attention. They fucked up. Like, now they just want to survive and, look after the children and just peacefully live on this planet. They don't care about ruling the universe anymore or watching or whatever. Like, that part of their civilization is gone. That's interesting, Because then you could always do a storyline where they're trying to head back to universal dominance, maybe even a civil war on Gallifrey. Something like that. That would be somewhat interesting. But now that the Doctor's not even a Time Lord, what does it even fucking matter?
With the Doctor Who, like, introducing a lot more of these political elements and whatnot, like, I would have thought the obvious like opportunity of like a civilization wrecked after the after a war and having suffered so many great losses would have been to go with like a Nazi Germany allegory where like an extremist group takes over and brings the country to try and take it back to its former glory. That would have been kind of the obvious route to take with it. Would have been like, extremists now rule Gallifrey.
That would have been awesome. That would have been so cool because Rassilon like trying to build it up again and be like, and like he could be kind of like, it's not our fault. It's like these species' fault. Like obviously drawing parallels to like the hate against the Jews and
which of course ties it straight back to the Daleks, which of course were supposed to be like Nazis, the Nazis in the first place. So it's like they become that.
Yeah, they become the
Daleks, which was of course was kind of part of the whole thing with the Time War is that they became, just as bad in a lot of instances.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have been a great concept. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like as I kind of mentioned last week, I think that Doctor Who's at the point now where it needs people who've grown up with the new series to now write it rather than people who grew up with the classic series to write it, because I think their ideas and views of what Doctor Who should be is now still based off the classic era, what they grew up with, what they wanted when they were watching, classic Who, which obviously there was so many directions you go with that. The issue is we've had that now for 15 years. I think it's time for a break, and now let's go in a direction with, young writers, new writers who have who grew up watching this, new Who series, the Russell T and Stephen Moffat, and knowing what worked and what didn't work, and then going off and I think that is how Doctor Who would be rejuvenated. In my opinion, I think it needs super young writers. Because at the minute, like they're getting some good, like youngish writers in, but still like people who kind of maybe even grew up in the void period of Doctor Who, you know. I don't think we've had any writers yet who grew up with, you know, the Russell T. You know, when it was a big impression on like their childhood. Like, I don't think we've had any writers who've done that yet. Could be wrong. But I don't think we've had anyone who's like was shaped, you know, their childhood was shaped by Doctor Who. And I think that's kind of, I don't know. To me, I feel that's like a direction which would really help the show, like a just fresh, young opinion on it. Because it would be what people aren't expecting. Because I think at the minute, either things are so left out of nowhere, or kind of obvious where they're going with it. I don't know. It's an odd one.
Yeah.
But it's still quality television. There's nothing. I mean, you know, quality is varying, but it's still it's still a solid TV show at the end of the day. You know, it's not anywhere near cancellation. Qualities are bad. You know.
No.
It's just I think it needs that fresh oomph. And I think people who grew up with the Russell T kind of really have an idea. Like, you know, I speak to, you know, different people who grew up with the Russell T, and they all have like ideas of, you know, kind of different ideas of what they'd want from the show. And like, some people have some really great ideas, which I just don't think writers who grew up with classic Who would be able to come up with. Because
or like maybe like later classic Who, but like I think a lot of these are like people who grew up in like the early 80s, late 70s.
Yeah,
that are, you know, the ones writing it now. Like even in people who grew up more, like, 'cause I mean that was the thing with Russell T. Like he took like parts of like the later Sylvester McCoy stuff, and I think that's a pretty good base to go on as well, even if it's not.
Oh, that's like getting inspiration, but I mean like where to go different. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like I think like Human Nature, Family of Blood is a perfect series finale. Like it doesn't always have to be a classic villain coming back. Like people aren't getting it. Like yes, it works, but also like there's such a good roster of villains out there. But it's like either they have a really shitty one-parter finale, which is just dead, like Battle of Rath-Sankor, Wedding of River Song was a bit dead. Name of the Doctor was, you know, good cliffhanger, but majority like,
Yeah.
You know, like you either have these weird single or Hellbent, which was awful, and it's like this. Always do a 2-part finale. I think that's just a given. Just never do a 1 episode unless it's like an extended episode, like, you know, a 60-minute Waters of Mars kind of thing, which would have been a fantastic series finale. Like you just need a big dramatic thing to happen. It doesn't need to be a classic monster. It doesn't need to be an overarching plot. I think like Moffat had the right idea by doing plots which went over multiple series. The issue is you can kind of tell that he was kind of making up as he went along with like Silence Will Fall and, you know, the Cracks in Time and how it all connected to the Name of a Doctor. You could tell that Name of a Doctor was very much crap, I've got all these open elements that I haven't really concluded yet.
Tie it,
you know. Which, I mean, for what he did a very good job of tying it all together. It does make sense. It does work. So to be fair, but you can definitely tell he did not have plan A all the way to plan, you know, Z. It wasn't like a this is what I'm going to do for the whole of the 11th Doctor. He didn't have a whole thing planned out. He planned out Series 5 incredibly well, and then, you know, he left, you know, little Easter eggs for Series 6, but then 6 to 7 was just a you know, Chris Chibnall can't decide what he wants to do, whether he wants to, you know, a completely new show or everything classic. It's like he should have done, like, if he'd sprinkled half into each series, I think it would have been a whole lot better. Like, you know, I think like really like the Prisoner of the Jadoon should have been, or Fugitive of the Jadoon even, should have been in the first series with Captain Jack setting up the Lone Sideman for the next series. That would have been a whole lot better. Like, to me, it would have left, you know, more tantalizing. There was nothing from Series 11 that was making you want to stay and watch for Series 12. There was nothing tying over, nothing at all. Like, made you want to see the next series. There was no cliffhanger or anything, you know? Like, that was the one great thing that Russell T did with most series, is he ended them on a cliffhanger for the Christmas special, granted. But, I mean, the Christmas special was always a setup for then the next series. Like, with, you know, Donna appearing on the TARDIS. And then, the Titanic crashing through the TARDIS, you know, through the TARDIS somehow.
You didn't take the shields off.
Yeah, but
Or
I'm trying to work
she was
out like
on.
the box. It would just, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever. But it was a cool moment, you know, like, and then it was a space Titanic, and everyone was thinking the Titanic on Earth. No, it was a freaking spaceship. Like, very cool, very cool. And you know that's something that I think's missing. There's barely ever a cliffhanger for the next series, is there? Like series 5 just kind of ended. More adventures are going to come.
I guess this last series has though.
Yes, this series did. Yes, it did. Okay, and that's cool. I mean, it was a bit of a the Doctor's trapped. What's gonna? I mean, obviously the Doctor's gonna get out. It needs to be. I think like a series cliffhanger can't be the Doctor in any jeopardy because that's not worrying to me. Like I know how the Doctor's gonna get out fine. I think it always needs to be more of a tantalizing hint at the next adventure. Is I think what works better. So like, there's a bride on the TARDIS. How the hell did she get there? It's not the Doctor in danger or anything. It's just such a crazy. How the fuck did she get there? You know, like that's what's more interesting. You know, the Titanic crashing. Like the Doctor's not really in danger. It's just like what the hell. You get what I mean? Like if you put the Doctor in jeopardy, there's no worry because you know that the Doctor's going to get out. There's no tantalizing. Oh, what's going to happen? What the hell's going on? Like that's more. I think what's better. Which I think that they miss out on a lot. Like just little things make you come back next week. That's why Classic Who was so great because it always ended every episode on a cliffhanger. Like you want to know what happens next. That's the point of a good cliffhanger, which makes you keep coming back. That's why you know some cliffhangers are like infamous in Doctor Who history.
Yeah,
because you know the Dalek coming down the hallway towards Barbara, who screamed horrifically. You want to know what happens next.
Yeah.
Like you just want to know. You're like, oh my god, what had she seen? You know, what is this? So many questions.
I mean, even as far back as the first story, where you get like the shadow of the
the caveman. And you're like, who's this? What's this? You know. Yeah, it's like cliffhangers. I don't think the modern series understands as much. To me, I feel like it was I feel like there needs to be more like the cliffhangers, even like episode to episode. Even if the next story is completely different, just have it set up the next episode. Have it set up the next episode. You know, just a small thing. Just I think if I took over, I'd be like to every writer, okay, start the episode where the Doctor's already in a situation. Bit like James Bond, you know, like how it starts with another thing being sorted. Not as big like a plot as like maybe a James Bond film where he's, you know like how Casino Royale starts with action. Like wouldn't that
I don't because I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Casino Royale, mate? My goodness.
The James Bond film I saw was Skyfall. I didn't really get into it because I missed all the context. So.
Oh man. Okay, so James Bond films always start with a previous mission. It's always like the end of a previous mission. So it always starts with action scenes, basically.
Yeah.
So he's always finishing up a mission or on another mission, which is why in Skyfall, you know, that's when he gets shot because he's on another mission. That's how it always starts. Big action scene. And like, I wouldn't want a big action scene, but what I'd want is like always to end the episode where the Doctor's in a problem. And I'd say to the next writer, okay, the Doctor's had this issue. You have to start your episode fixing this issue and then go on with your story. So that every episode has somewhat a cliffhanger. Not a big one or anything which is connected to the main story, and not the TARDIS crashing, but maybe the TARDIS lands somewhere. So a good example is the second episode of Edge of Destruction back in the William Hartnell. They come outside and they see a footprint, and they're like, what is this? Like, whose footprint is this? Like, we're not alone here. Or a setup for like the Savages episode 1. I think I don't know what the episode is before it. But you see on the screen, they look at the screen and it's nice and like sunny outside, but then like a shadow like comes into like a character then appears who looks, you know, rough and like, you know, he's ready to cause some trouble. You know, like little things like I'm like, okay, we're going to set up each story. Like I'd say to the writer, they could ask how the previous script would end, but I just want that thing that every week it's trying to get people to come back and watch the episode, watch this. You know, what's just I know it's JJ Abrams' mystery box. And I know that has a lot of like thing around it. But
Yeah.
like he's got some point there. Like mystery boxes are fun. Just don't make bloody massive ones. Little mystery boxes. Little what's going to happen? Who is this character? Find out next week. You know, just that. Like that's what I'd bring back. Like this is kind of interwoven thing. And then sometimes you can have a break, you know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't always need it.
Yeah, it needs to be some breaks.
Maybe the next episode wouldn't work. You know, you want to fit in some big Finish stuff in there somewhere. But but you know, like
Sure.
it would be nice. It's what they did for like the first 3 episodes of series 10. You know, Smile ended with a cliffhanger of them seeing the elephant on the ice in thin ice. You know, that was really nice. It gave you a tantalizing little taster of next week without there being a next time trailer to ruin everything. Like, I don't think you particularly need the next time trailer if you have this set up at the end. I mean, series finales always did fantastically well. Like, you know, Donna Noble on the TARDIS. I didn't need a next time trailer for me to be like, hell yeah, I want to find out what happens next, because it was enough. It was enough as itself. Sure, you can have one which airs on TV, a next time trailer, but I think it would be nice if people just have the option of getting that little cliffhanger, which gives them a tease of next week, and then can just go away and just know what's coming up, but nothing spoilery.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be something I'd try out, see how people, you know, I think like they're not trying out the right things at the minute. I think they're trying lots of different things that they maybe wanted when they were younger in Doctor Who, like the William Hartnell title sequence reimagined. You know, that's what they want. Is that really what we wanted as a generation? I didn't particularly. Did you ever like feel like you wanted to see a kind of a 21st century version of the William Hartnell intro sequence?
I mean, I think it's cool.
It's cool. But
yeah, as a long-term fan, it works. But I'm sure for like people who don't, it's not quite as visually catching as like the other ones were.
Exactly.
But like as a fan, yeah, you know, it's like I appreciate, you know, what they're trying to do here. But
yeah, but I think it's not the right stuff to be trying. Do you get what I mean? Like, I feel like it's find out like what really connected with people. Well, clearly the Russell T Davies intro, that was the one which connected most with people. That was like the big time where everyone was loving the show. And I think and that was a big time where people joined the show as well. Like, and a title sequence is a very important part, like, of pulling you into the world. And if every week that intro sequence clearly pulled people in, I mean, you just look at the viewing figures. It was a big thing, you know. Everyone knew the theme from that one, and the TARDIS is in the intro, which I always think is a very important thing. And it actually looked like the TARDIS. It didn't look like the really bad one from the 12th Doctor one, which was just too cartoony. It doesn't look like. I know that they went like this with this brighter blue, but I feel like the Russell T one, I believe it's the TARDIS. You know, it's like, this is in the show. This is the Doctor traveling right now. We're watching him travel right now. While like in the new ones, I don't feel it. I don't feel like we're watching the TARDIS travel anywhere, or we're going through time. Like, I do like the new title sequence. That's not me saying that I don't like it, but I feel like they're not trying interesting concepts anymore. I don't feel like they're doing anything that's really different. You know, they're like, they've revamped the show, with better cameras and a female Doctor, which cool. Like, but it's not like, I don't know. I feel like it's more story beats. Like what was interesting about Demons of the Punjab and the Witchfinders was the female perspective. You know, the Doctor could go and was doing like the female art and the being called a witch. Like, that's interesting concepts which haven't been done before, and that's why, while a lot of people don't like the Witchfinders, actually I quite like that episode, and actually in my head it sticks out as one that I'd like to go watch. And Charles,
it's not one of my favourite, but I think it's solid enough. Like, I didn't hate it.
It tried something with a concept that I was like, yes, thank you. Like, if we're gonna have a female Doctor, let's actually make it worth. You know, finally we've got it. We can celebrate these stories that we couldn't do before. Let's celebrate them. I don't feel like we're quite, I don't know, there yet. I don't mean every week, but I feel like there's more stuff we could do. You know, I mean, like, what about the Doctor talking about? I mean, the Doctor kind of talked about parenthood, but not completely. That was kind of given to Ryan, wasn't it? When there was the pregnant man, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to hear the Doctor talk about motherhood. Like, that would be an interesting concept, wouldn't it? Someone who's, you know, gender fluid, basically. How do they come across parenting? Are they a mother? Are they a father? Like, what? How do they feel about that? Like, do they feel like a loss of identity or more of an identity? Because they're, you know, that's like, this is interesting, like, stuff. Like, do Time Lords actually struggle to connect to any specific gender? Like, there's like, and it doesn't need to be the main focus of an episode, but it can be an interesting tidbit within an episode. You know, I think there's a lot of deep stuff that you can go into, but they're too busy going like, oh no, the Doctor's this now a mythical creature where we don't even know where she came from. Like, that's not what people care. Like, that's not characterization. That's just labeling. Like, special. That's all it is. It's a special label. That's not what makes people special. What makes people special are actions. You know, what they consciously say or do. That's interesting, not what they had no control over. Like, that's not interesting, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
To me, like, and I feel like they're kind of missing it. And this is something from Classic Who. Like, this is what I'm thinking they're getting their inspiration from. There wasn't enough origin story in Classic Who, or ever enough about origin story in Classic Who. So this is what the writers are now connecting to, what they wanted more of when they were younger. But I feel like, you know,
but that's what interesting. At least in the beginning was the lack of that. You know, like, we got little bits here and there, and then like it was a big deal when we got like anything, like when we got to see the Doctor's people. That, like, you know, like, there was still a lot of mystery about it, and there's, you know, I think that if there's enough mystery to the Doctor, it's still compelling, right?
Exactly.
You can make up your own mind about stuff. You know, it's all, which leads you to think more about the show. Like, this is my interpretation of this. This is what I think, you know, the Doctor was doing before. This is the reason why I think the Doctor left Gallifrey. Those sorts of things, you know, can be more headcanon-y. They don't need to be explained. That's, you know, that can be then, you know, what the fans feel. But like, now we're being told everything, really.
And and it's like the bits which stand out though, isn't it? It's like when the Doctor talks about like war, like this 12th Doctor specifically, his standout moments. His standout moments are when he talks about like his own feelings and thoughts towards stuff, like why he is standing, because it's kind, because it's the right thing to do, you know. That is interesting, and that sticks out in people's heads. Not, you know, a finale where it's like how he reacts in his confession thing. You know, the prison, the heaven sent prison. You know, how he acts the whole thing when there's no one watching him. That's interesting stuff. You know, like. And I feel like that is finally, you know, Moffat, I think he got it a bit more about trying these new concepts and different things.
Yeah.
I feel Clara was sadly the thing which numbed it down, because originally Series 9 was supposed to be a companion light series. There was going to be no companion. It was just going to be the Doctor. And that's why they had to really rework scripts quickly to fit Clara in, which is why she seems a bit useless half the time. Like, the whole, like, subplot in The Magician's Apprentice is clearly weak with her and the Dalek, and if you say I love you, then it's exterminate translated. It's like, okay, so are the Daleks saying they love people and they just accidentally kill people? Like, you know, bad stuff. But
and certain things being said that interprets to Dalek doesn't make sense when Daleks has said some of those things before.
Yeah, weird. But this is my point. Like, we as new Who watchers love the mystery and just getting tiny tidbits now and then, and just making big things about really small things. Seeing the Time Lords, oh my god, that was, you know, End of Time Part 1. I lost my shit. I lost my shit when like, you know, the Time Lords were on screen. I literally, I was like, oh fuck. I remember saying that out loud. Like, you know, like little 11-year-old me was like, oh fuck. Like, shit, this is big. And, you know, it was incredible. But now it's like, oh yeah, we'll just destroy Gallifrey off screen. Like, shit. After saving, you know, I'm getting tired of like, I like Gallifrey has like been so poorly mistreated, I think. In like from after saving Gallifrey onwards, it's been mistreated completely. completely and utterly.
Yeah.
They've completely screwed it. It's in almost 7 years. Just every time they've gone there, just oof.
Oh, they barely gone there.
Well, that's the first issue. Like, if you're going to bring it back, do something with it. I don't know. Like, locking it away. So you saved it, you put it in this little bubble universe, great. But now the Doctor is forced to lock it away. To never return there. So that he is the last of the Time Lords, at least that he can see, you know?
Yeah.
And you could have you could do that Nazi story you had where the Doctor, you know, like the Master is trying to raise up the ranks and start an anarchist group, you know, in Gallifrey to you know, raise them up, and because then, like, you know, they're looking for a leader after Rassilon got kicked off. Perfect time for the Master to go in, and they're like, oh well, we've got no choice. Yeah. And then the Doctor, you know, locks Gallifrey away, thinking he's, you know, seen the last of all of them and the Master, but then, you know, the Master could crop up and be like, of course I got out, you know, like I left before you even, you know, step foot back on Gallifrey or something. Like, maybe the Doctor could leave and then just come back to shut it off, you know, something like that. And it can be left open, you know, as to, you know, how did the Master escape? Well, you know, he just flew out before the Doctor locked it, or something like that. Or a bit like End of Time, where the Doctor's about to lock them all in this bubble universe, keep them locked there so they can't hurt anyone anymore, and the Master maybe tackles them out before it locks shut, so the Doctor can never go home. Time Lords are just then, like, at least if you're going to have, like, if you don't want to use the Time Lords anymore, fine, because at least you use this interesting story with, like, this Nazi anarchist group. You could even have a Doctor Light episode where it's just about the Master. No, they've never really thought of that concept. Why don't we just do an episode where they follow the Master?
But like, we get a different title screen for it and such.
That would be interesting. That would be quite cool, wouldn't it? It would be different, you know.
I mean, that's something that Big Finish has kind of done, of course, with like specific Master stories. So you kind of have like a baseline there. I mean, I've listened to some of the War Master stories they've been doing with Derek Jacobi as the Master, and it's great because he's like, you know, you see all these situations which the Doctor would come up to. And, you know, like, you think, oh, you know, if this was the Doctor, you do it one way. But the Master, of course, is just nasty and manipulative and does everything to his end. And then, like, the companion he ends up getting in that series is because, well, the companion literally is blackmailed into doing stuff and literally has nowhere else to go. It's like...
Awesome. Yeah, and, like, why has the Master never got a companion? Like, surely at some point there must be someone evil who wants to do stuff. You know, rule with him or something. Or the Master has never fallen in love. Like, wouldn't this be an interesting concept? Like, the Master must be able to, you know, feel love or what he thinks is love. You know, there must be something there. I mean, he got the wife, but that was just a cover up, like Lucy, obviously. But there must be. I don't know. I feel there's something interesting you could do there. Like, the Master has a companion. Why not? Why not? And, like,
again, that is what Big Finish have done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Big Finish, I think, have a lot more, I don't know, out there concepts which should be brought into the series, I guess. But, like, yeah, so Master having a companion, or like a Dalek story where it's literally the Daleks for the main run of the story, you know? Like, setting up a bit like, you know, Mission to the Unknown. Like, why don't they do something like that? Because it gives you this villain set up. So then the next story is even, like, the stakes are bigger because you've seen these villains do their nasty, horrible things. So when the Doctor comes up to face them, like, I don't... it's like, okay, so the reason why Series 1 worked, I think, as well as it did is because you're viewing through the eyes of Rose rather than the Doctor. So you were more with the companion than actually the Doctor, which made him more of a mystery. And I think the issue is now the Doctor's kind of become, again, the main character, when I think always really the main character should be the companion. Like, to me, it's like that's more the interesting situation. Like, the Doctor's super smart and intelligent, so it's kind of, he's a bit of a boring character to follow, because as we've seen in this series now, the Doctor's basically always right all the time. The companions will do whatever the Doctor says, pretty much. The Doctor will say jump off a cliff, and fucking they'll yeet off it at the moment, you know. You wouldn't have to ask Yaz twice to jump off a freaking bridge or something, if a doctor was like, I need you to jump off this bridge, Yaz would fricking be over that bridge instantly. There's no argument, but at least, with like Donna and Martha, they'd like question stuff, and that was still when it was more through the eyes of companion a bit,
Yeah.
And I think that's what's...
I think that's a problem with having too many companions. I think that's part of the problem.
That is, yes.
There.
But I think it's also like, it needs to be through the eyes of the companion, and like, I think the Doctor just needs to be less... Obviously, it's still at the forefront, but the Doctor, I don't think, always needs to be the main driving force of a story,
No.
And yeah, there we go. Kind of Gallifrey. I think that's what I think it needs. Just new, young people who grew up with the new series.
Blood, yeah. New
blood. I think that's definitely. But young new blood. Yeah.
I guess you can put it that way.
I think that's what would be the best for the series. Really, people who are going to come in and just from another generation. It'd be interesting. Just out there concepts, crazy. That's what I think Sarah Jane Adventures did so well. Was it was really different every week, very different. Like Eye of a Gorgon, it was Greek mythology. Day of the Clown, Pied Piper, like folk tales, and sometimes it'd be super aliens, and sometimes it would be like ghosts and stuff, and the trickster. And it was very different every week, but kept a consistent tone.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's that Doctor Who needs a break just to have that little period just to work on that new tone and smash it, because at the minute it's still that same. You can tell it's distinctly different between the three eras, but the storytelling tone's the same, I guess. Like the Doctor always ends up very samey in personality and kind of the way that they do things. They're all kind of like the most they tried to be different was really Peter Capaldi series 8.
Yeah.
But then he kind of ended up like kind of a bit like the rest in series 9.
Well,
and
no,
10.
I wouldn't say Peter Capaldi. I think Peter Capaldi's the outlier. Even during the later series, like he became kinder, but it was distinctly, with a more aged and a bit more, more of a almost experienced perspective on the whole thing. Whereas David Tennant and Matt Smith had that kind of more youthful sort of energy, which Jodie Whittaker kind of continues on with, that kind of...
Yeah, I think we just need a Doctor in between that age, between Peter Capaldi and kind of the young 30s, just someone in their 40s, I think would be a nice different take. But yeah, I think it just needs some new out there concepts, and at the minute I think they're just not trying to do just the concepts that don't need touching really. But hey ho, we'll see what happens. Series 13, whenever that bloody comes out, whenever that comes out. I'm not hopeful. I think it's going to be a long time. Though to be fair, at this point they can't be doing anything else but writing those scripts. So
that's true.
I'm hoping actually for a very strong series, because I mean this is the perfect time to really be working on it every day, just perfecting those scripts and storylines, because it is just about working away. I can sympathize with being a showrunner. You're having to make sure that the casting choices and everything, there's a lot as well as writing on top of that. It is a big challenge, and it must be quite difficult, especially because every week the cast is changing. I mean, like writing Broadchurch would be completely different for Chibnall, because it's pretty much one cast. Every episode of Doctor Who is a different guest cast. So the amount of casting you have to do and auditions and a lot of overseeing. So I can respect. But now this time, obviously, it's delayed the series. Whatever, it will be delayed regardless of how far along they were. But hopefully this time they can really work on some stuff, and hopefully and Jodie's run on a high. I think it will be her final series. Guess we'll see. I mean, then that's a stress, isn't it? So if Jodie leaves, they got to cast the next Doctor.
Indeed.
So there we go. I don't know. I get a feeling she might do 4. I have this weird inkling.
I think that's possible.
I just get this weird feeling that she'll just do, 2 more. Because the thing is because they take so long between doing the pre-production and going into it, like, she can do some other small roles in other shows in the meantime to keep life interesting. So I think that's the main thing for an actor is playing the Doctor all the time. It just becomes, the same, and like for 4 years playing the same role, it would get tiring. I can imagine it. David Tennant, and it's 3 series does feel just about right. I don't know how Tom Baker did it for blooming 8 seasons, 7 years.
Well, because he practically lived, at least publicly, as the Doctor. Pretty much, he became the role more or less, like in real life. So it's just like. He embraced it so much that it was just part of him for that whole time he was the Doctor.
Yeah.
That's why I guess it wasn't so tiring for him, because, well, that's just
himself.
I am the Doctor. This is how I'm going to be, which made it all the more hard when he had to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, we got the kind of 60th anniversary, didn't we? With most of the Doctors.
Well, not even that, the 60th year yet.
I know that's the closest we're gonna get, I think, to a What We Doctor story that we want. Of all obviously the clap for the NHS. It was very nice, seeing them all.
I don't know if there's really a lot to say about it, but it was nice they did that.
It was nice to watch and see them all. It was good. Good to see. I mean, like, Doctor Who fans have actually been quite lucky out of this whole situation. The amount of new content and, like, stuff we've got. This wouldn't have come about. This closing chapter to Sarah Jane wouldn't have come about without this whole isolation period. Like it's just all of this stuff, all of these prologues, epilogues. This is all just we're just lucky. Like as a fans group, like we've been very kind of blessed for the amount that we've got.
Yeah, compared to like other other big shows, like they're just nothing at the minute. No,
it's more.
I don't see all the expanded Star Trek stuff or whatever.
But I mean, it's just crazy the amount we're getting. Like, it's nice. It's good. It shows like that there's a lot of good in the Doctor Who community still.
Yeah,
there's a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad in it, but there's lots of good. And I think what's nice is this period's been used to just celebrate Doctor Who rather than hate on it or anything, which I think's more what's needed from this fan base, and
bring back a bit of the positivity.
Exactly.
Try to maybe bring everyone else in, because it has been a very fractured fan base pretty much since Series 11. But it's a shame because ultimately we all want the same thing. We want the show to be good. It's just how we get about that varies from your perspectives. I mean, that's always going to be the case, but it's like.
It's strange because you can see the difference in variety of fan people in the comments of like stuff on the BBC show when the new episodes are going out. You can tell there's people who kind of just watch it casually who really enjoy it. They really love the show, and there's but then there's sometimes people who watch it casually who really dislike it, but feel the need to comment that it was awful, trashy, blah blah blah. And you can tell because they blame Chibnall for every episode, and it's like, well, he didn't write this one. So I know he's overseeing them, but there's only so much a man can do when you're trying to run a whole bloody series. You have to be kind of reliant on your writers. That's why you're hiring other writers, I could see it, when we were at school and people were saying, oh, Moffat wrote this awful episode, and they'd say some episode which was written by someone completely not them, like Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. Was
there's a lot you can blame Moffat for, but you can't blame him for that episode.
Yeah, and it's people blamed him for so many episodes which he didn't even write, and I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. So before you're gonna shit on the writer, make sure they actually bloody wrote it, But it's like, and then you can see in the comments though, you can see lots of lovely casual, long-time fans who enjoy the episodes, and then long-time fans who It's like, oh, you know, Doctor Who died in 2017. You know, it's like, why are you still watching it then? Like, if it's dead to you or whatever, like, why are you finding the need to comment on this Doctor Who post about? It's like I don't understand people. I don't get the need to comment. I understand people's frustration and negativity. I can understand it, but say it in a constructive way. Like, you know, say what's wrong. Don't just call it trashy. Like, what's actually wrong with it? Like, and then people who say it's political. I mean, like, fucking hell, it's been political. You know, the Sunmakers is about bloody tax. You know,
it's a bit too preachy at times at the minute, and that certainly you look at an episode like All 55, and it's like you can see like. There have been like situations where I can see what you mean when you say it's more political, but it's not that it's more political necessarily. It's just doing it in a less woven.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I guess good way.
It doesn't feel like it fits organically with the story. It doesn't feel organic within.
That's the big problem.
But
it's just worse writing in those cases. You know, is more the problem.
I think and that's what I feel it is, and I think just it needs a fresh lick of paint. I think Doctor Who, but you know, it's not about the title sequence or the cinematic look of the cameras. It's not about that. It's about the storytelling, and it's about the characters, and it's the character beats which are far more interesting. And I don't think they're quite understanding that yet. It's about what's interesting about Doctor Who is how characters behave in certain situations. What I really liked about In the Woman Who Fell to Earth was there was the guy on the train who was like, I just want to go and do my job. I'm going to pretend none of this happened. That was such a cool concept. Like, that would happen more times in Doctor Who than we've seen, you know? People just being like, I haven't seen any of this, I'm going to pretend I didn't, you know, so in shock by what happened.
Like different, like, you know, like Night of the Doctor was a whole like subversion of what you'd think normally would be. Exactly. I mean, that's another good example of that. It was like you expect it to just be like a normal thing, but like the moment she sees the TARDIS, it's like
it's a TARDIS. And like just snap change, and I love that. But it's like Rose, her shot blows up. She just runs home in shock, holding this plastic arm. You know, she doesn't go, oh, better go find the doctor, like this person, this crazy. She acts like a real bloody human. That's what.
Yeah, especially considering she saw him blow up the shop. Like he had the bomb.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh my god, is he a terrorist? It's just like real human reactions, like real, you know, like that's what's missing. That is it's these characters. Real characters are missing. That's all. I think that's the main thing that's missing from this show. And like Yaz, this series was the big thing which I really liked. Like the bit with the whole policeman story, you know, with the nightmares. That was a great thing. You know, where she kind of ran away from home, and fantastic. Like that should have been in series 1. That should have been in one of the early episodes. I think like going into nightmares and stuff is a really good storytelling technique. Especially in a show like Doctor Who, you can do it very visually and without it feeling like a flashback, you know, like flashbacks can be lazy writing. People don't particularly like flashbacks unless they're short, snappy, and like fit in the situation. But with Aliens, you know, you can do a lot of that, you know. Like I believe like a story like Can You Hear Me should have been way earlier in the series. Like it's a fantastic way to develop characters and what they're afraid of, you know, like Graham going for a cancer checkup and it being back, like it's fantastic stuff. Like, and for some reason that episode got a lot of hate. Yes, it wraps up the story way too quickly with them getting trapped. I believe like the Doctor's plan went too smoothly. That's my other thing. When the Doctor has a plan, it always goes too smoothly. It needs to always mess up. The reason why Scooby-Doo was always entertaining was because their trap always messed up, yet they always just somehow managed by the skin of their teeth to. I mean, it was literally copy and paste cartoon, wasn't it? Scooby-Doo's, you know.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if that's the best.
No, but yet it was so successful because at least like it was interesting, and you know they were like, well, this plan's not going to work, you know. And that was the issue with the Doctor's plan; it just worked perfectly. It was like, oh, okay, and then they got trapped with that like scary beast creature in this tiny thing for eternity. And they were great villains. All it needed was an extra 5 minutes just to wrap up that story. But you know, it was that was like that was a standout episode for me, and I don't know why it didn't get as much attention as it did. I thought it was like on like some like when people were rating it and stuff, I saw like it was pretty low in like the overall series. I was like, this is one of the better, maybe one of the best stories this season. Like this was fantastic. I thought. I don't understand like that's the kind of
he then rates Prisoner of the
Jadoon
such as like
that was clearly Captain Jack was back 10 out of 10, you know. It's like you can tell like when people are rating for fanboying girling over it, you know. It's like it's skewed just because Jack showed up, and I mean it was lovely to see him, don't get me wrong, I love seeing him, but
I would have liked to have seen him for a decent purpose.
Exactly. And I mean, obviously he's going to show up then next series, but I thought he'd show up in the Sontaran story, and that's what was the connection there, because that's why I was like, I thought the ship that they were on was being chased maybe by Cybermen, because like, don't give the lone Cybermen what it wants. Why did you give it what it wanted? You know, Captain Jack. Like, how is that going to have a knock-on effect? You know?
Yeah.
Like, huh? Like, how did Jack know about the Cybermen and the Time Cybermen? Unless,
well, I guess it's the Earth.
I guess if we find out though, what that maybe some of the Time Lord Cybermen survived the explosion of Gallifrey,
or just the general fact of Jack, of course, must have lived through the Cyber Wars.
But then that's kind of boring, isn't it? Because like,
well, he must have been there, right? Surely.
Why would Jack then warn the Doctor? I don't know. To me, it's just that it's like you're having to explain this off screen. Where really like, this is something that needs to be explained on the screen. Like, why was the Doctor? Why was Jack warning the Doctor about this specific character? You know, Jack could have been like, "Watch out for the Daleks." Like, no shit, no fucking shit. Watch out for the Daleks. Of course, they're always up to shit. You know, like. It was a great, and the issue is just the way that they got rid of the fucking low Cyberman. Like, great character, really interesting, fucking turned into a little toy. Like, so frustrating, so bloody frustrating.
Yeah.
How could you write that and think, this is satisfying? I think that's the other thing. They just don't think, is this satisfying? Is this a satisfying end to this character that the Master just comes in and like kills this character, which we set up for 2 episodes? It would be like if like at the start, like just if Thanos just like, you know, if Thanos didn't show up in Endgame at the end for the final battle, like, you know, they get all the Infinity Stones, they snap everyone back at the end of the film. It's the equivalent. You set up Thanos as this big bad guy. You chopped off his head at the start of the film, and now, that's it. That's Thanos. That's done. He's dead. And you got the time. You got all the stones, and you brought everyone back. You know, it's like that. That's what it feels like with this guy. It's like you built him up as this great thing, and that's it. He just dies really quickly, like at the start of the final episode, and that's it. Like, he doesn't even come back. That's pretty much I don't know. I think I don't know. There's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that pretty much wraps it up for this week.
I would agree. Yeah.
But let us know what you thought below of kind of the Sarah Jane Adventures as a whole, and what you thought of Farewell Sarah Jane and what she kind of meant to you. What you thought of maybe the Human Nature, the Epilogue and Prologue. Did you like them? Did you not agree with them? Does it break time? Who knows? Paul Cornell does. But apparently, there we go. Well, thank you very much for listening, if you did listen. We'll see you next time. Bye.